format. And its stomping ground is certainly not stopping here, as we can see our fantastically well-known Philip Schulz on screen against Tom Cedric this round. And we're going to be seeing those turtles against dinosaurs going into an ancient versus stellar showdown.
Yes, Tom Cedric is going to be on that Raging Bolt deck, and Philip Schulz is going to be on that Terrapagos deck. That is not Philip Schulz's achievements. They are Antoine's achievements from the previous round. Philip Schulz did not get top 4 at the IG Champions League, but is a very accomplished player, has been for many years, of course, brother of former world champion Robin Schulz, and they play together, they test together. They often bring the same list to tournaments, and I know that they test with Tor. They often bring the same deck as Tord, who we have already said is on the Terrapagos train this weekend. So 3-0, one of the best players in Europe. You need to be watching this. Here we go. EUIC top 4. Oof. EUIC top 8. Multiple regional titles.
It's not understated to say that he's definitely one of the most accomplished players in Europe of all time. When you've got a steady showing of fantastic results like that through 2016 all the way until today, really, he's well set to go far in this tournament.
Yeah, first EUIC, I believe, was 2016, and we saw a result all the way from back then. So we've got Tom Cedric. We have got ourselves Philip. We've got Raging Bolt, and both of these decks are playing Briar. Look at the prizes. Ooh. One counter catcher for Philip and the Radiant Greninja for Tom Cedric.
I tell you what, I'm not a big fan of that Rotom in the prize cards there, being one of the early engines for getting all of those colorless Pokemon into your hand or into play.
Yeah, we are rolling here. Philip starts with a Hoot Toot, and then we see the Buddy Buddy Poffin going to search out a couple of cards. There is still one Fan Rotom in the deck. There's two that Philip plays.
Goodness.
And I think we could see that. It could only be used on your first turn of the game, but you can search for 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. They do not have to be basic Pokemon.
Nope.
And Noctowl has 100 HP. So you can search them out ready for turn 2.
Yep, you pop them in your hand. It doesn't need to be a basic Pokemon. You can just get ready. And with the Pidgeot line as well, being able to be accessible through the Fan Rotom as well, it's just a really fantastic utilization Pokemon. It's not fantastic late game, but it really doesn't matter. It's also a very valid attacker. Maybe not in this matchup so much, but certainly many others.
Yeah, single energy 70 if there's a stadium in play, can get those basics quite easily. Looks like we are just going for a Duskull and a Hoot Toot here, not filling up the bench too much too early. Worth noting, Philip does play 2 Bouffalont. Oh, here we go. It was already in hand. There we go.
Fantastic.
Does need to be slightly careful here, because, of course, Area 01 Depths only turns on when you've got a Terrestrial Pokemon in play, so you need to make sure Terrapagos is one of your first 5 bench to open up the extra spaces for Area 01 Depths.
I suppose one of the nice things about the Duskull being down is you can open that space up yourself without popping the Terrapagos on the bench yet. Now, there is one in hand, so we still have that potential, and you guys get the special treat of seeing one of the 1-1 lines in Philip's deck that's quite unique. Tell us about it.
In Philip's deck, the 1-1 line, the Regidrago. Regidrago V-Star, which is only being played for the V-Star power. You discard the top 7 cards of your deck and then put 2 cards from the discard into your hand. They do not have to be cards that were discarded from the top 7. Nope. It's played as a 1-1 line. It's purely for the ability. And if Area 01 Depths gets taken away, and you have to discard bench Pokemon to go down to 5, well, Regidrago's a great option.
I think it's a fantastic addition to this list, but it's not one we see commonly in kind of the early Terrapagos lists that we've been seeing at local events, at cups and just weekly events. Yeah, so I really like that inclusion personally.
And Philip passes, has left the bench space open, but has not benched that Terrapagos. One fun little fact, Tom Cedric is playing one of the Sliverwing, which for 2 energy does 120, and then 92 itself. No one really cares about that. It can KO a Terrapagos and can get going turn 1 because of Professor Sada's Vitality. Philip knows this. Now, Philip plays 2 Bouffalont.
Okay.
Which will reduce damage by 60 if they're both on the field. So basically, if and when Philip discovers a Sliverwing, you can only bench Terrapagos when you've also got 2 Bouffalont down, or the Sliverwing is unavailable. There's going to be a lot of awkward back and forth in this matchup, Amy. I'm a little bit excited about it.
I honestly think it's going to be a fantastic matchup for exactly that reason. Tom Cedric has the Slitherwing accessible to them, but once Philip discovers the Slitherwing, the back and forth that they're going to be able to play is fantastic. Philip hasn't disrespected the Slitherwing. They've included the Bouffalon and kept it flowing.
And not every Terrapagos deck plays a Bouffalon. We were literally arguing about this in the hotel yesterday when we were trying to do that bracket of top 8 cards from the set. And one of the things we said was we've all seen too many Terrapagos lists that have chosen not to play the Bouffalon. But Philip is only playing 2, so if one ends up prized, you know, Bouffalon, I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to say it. It's a herd animal. It's kind of pointless on its own.
Aww.
But you get 2 of them, they combine, they make the curly wall, and then we've got that -60 going on, and things get so much more fun.
I adore that. Curly wall, of course, needs 2 Bouffalon in play to be active, so it's really important those Buffalo come in pairs. And here we go with the first Pokestop. Oh, okay. All right. Let's go. 2 of 3.
Prime Catcher and Pokemon Catcher. So Tom apparently, or Tom Cedric, not afraid of flipping for gusting here. And here's the thing, were that Terrapagos to be on the bench, if I'm Tom, I'm going for the Slitherwing. It might not be an option. We need to see how his hand's doing.
I was going to say this is a really unfortunate hand for Tom Cedric. As a well-known Raging Bolt player myself, I'm not loving the lack of Pokemon.
Oh.
And now lack of supporter from that Pokegear, completely not seeing a single supporter to help them out. I think Tom Cedric is going to have a really bad start for this game.
That is a bad miss. The Pokegear 3.0, you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, you find no supporters, you do nothing. That card just gave you a -1 hand size. We've got a Pheasantipity in the active. Is that going to be it?
I think that's it. That's a pass.
Oh, that is not ideal. Now, one thing that is very, very important to remember here is Terrapagos cannot use Unified Beatdown turn 1 if you go second. Philip went first.
Ooh.
So this is totally on the board right now. Only plays double turbo, but that's fine. You will be hitting with a full bench with Area 0 Underdepths. You hit 220. Pheasantipity has got 210. So what we need here, Area 0 Underdepths, full bench of 8 Pokemon, double turbo energy, and this is where Noctowl uses Jewel Seeker. We've got Rare Candy and Count Again. Oh, you know what's happening here.
Count Again?
Is that Count Again?
I believe it's...
Oh, it's a Feather Ball. That makes way more sense. Count Again hasn't been re-released yet.
No,
that's in the next set.
But I love this Feather Ball tech. A lot of people are playing Feather Ball in this list just to seek out that Pidgeot, so you don't have to use a quick, a Ultra Ball. From your Noctowl, you can prioritize Noctowl for other cards that aren't going to discard things for you. So we're using 2 Jewel Seekers, seeking so many little glittery gems, including, of course, our stadium, extending that bench magically here into a switch, into Terrapagos. The pieces are falling together. We're going to go for the Rare Candy into the Pidgeot. We've got a quick search online. Going for the Nest Ball first to fill the bench, though.
Here we go, and we do see a Bouffalon double turbo energy KO with Unified Beatdown, and Tom Cedric is unfortunately out of Pokemon, and Philip Schulz has won game 1. This is one of the reasons, Amy, the people are hyping Terrapagos. Fine, if you go second turn 1, you can't attack. Weirdly, Raging Bolt can, more on that later. But if your opponent passes with 1 Pokemon active, oh, that is where you go. And I just want everyone to note how easy that was for Philip to go full bench, because you've got the Noctowl searching 2 trainers. Those 2 trainers go and get you your Pidgeot. Your Pidgeot goes and gets you any card you want. And oh, look, that was how fast that game was.
It was. It went by so quick. Unfortunately, game 1 wasn't so serendipitous for poor old Pheasantipity.
Well, let's have a replay of game 1, and I think we might even be able to get most of the game into that replay, because there wasn't much there. Here comes Tom Cedric, and we see the failure of that Pokegear to go and get a supporter card, and that was the moment you see it on Tom's face there. That is the moment he knows he's passing of a Pheasantipity in the active, and then all we need here is just Pidgeot for the double turbo, KO, Philip wins game 1.
absolute poetry in motion as we see Terapagos doing what Terapagos do best and just filling that board, everything perfect, the Noctowls, just everything went Philip's way there. And unfortunately, not so much for poor old Tom Cedric with just a lone Pheasantipity and no supporter to save them from that Pokegear 3.0.
No, and that's not what you expect from a Raging Bolt deck, right? Generally speaking, with Raging Bolt, what you're really looking for is you go second, and then use Professor Sada's Vitality. You draw a bunch of cards, you attach a bunch of energy, you want that turn 1 KO. One of the things that's so great about Slitherwing in this deck is that you can go Professor Sada's Vitality, attach for turn, KO Terapagos turn 1 going second, because you are allowed to attack. Turn 1 going second is why Slitherwing ends up in the deck. The problem here is that if you have that kind of start, it doesn't always work. But Amy, tell us more about Raging Bolt.
I love Raging Bolt EX, and no, it's not just because there's a Grass-type Pokemon in the deck. Now, it can deal some absolutely tremendous damage with Bellowing Thunder, dealing 70 damage for each energy you discard from your Pokemon, and then your friendly Teal Mask Ogerpon manages to Teal Dance all of the energy onto itself for Raging Bolt to discard for this damage. Now, it has some really great matchups. Unfortunately, it doesn't usually suffer from slow starts like we just saw, so maybe it will have a resurgence. And Briar, one of our new cards today, allows the Teal Mask Ogerpon to take extra prizes, which we love to see against cards like Charizard, who is weak to that grass typing.
Yeah, now we didn't see it much. We didn't see it at all in game 1, but the prize map can get funky in this game.
Oh, yeah, it can.
Because both players are playing Briar, which if you got 2 prizes remaining, you play this, and then you take a KO with a Terra Pokemon, you take an extra prize. But then also, Phillips is playing the Dust Noir that KOs itself to drop damage counters to give your opponent a prize. So we're going to have to track all of this. If we have a real game 2 that goes a distance, this is stuff we're going to have to track. And by the way, just in case anyone at home is getting a bit worried, you weren't missing anything. Sleeves are being changed.
But important things to be done when you're playing a high-level event such as regional championships. Here we go. So
it looks like Philip is once again going first here, using that Nest Ball, going to search out a Pokemon. And we could once again see that Fan Rotom being the choice, because it's not 1 Pokemon, it's 4.
Yep, essentially might as well be 4 Pokemon, as you can search that out. But as you well noted in game 1, can only be using that ability on your first turn.
I definitely did not go to a pre-release, bench Fan Rotom and go, I'm going to save that ability for next turn when it's more useful, because that would have been a really silly thing to do, Amy, and I would not do that.
It would be such a shame if you did that when you were playing against me at a pre-release, wouldn't it?
I didn't do it against you. I did it round 1.
Oh, was it round 1?
Yeah, round 2. By round 3, I'd figured the card out properly. But yes, I did do that round 1. Thanks for telling everyone, Amy.
You're welcome.
Tom Cedric here has chosen to go second. Lost game 1, has the choice, chosen to go second, which tells you what you need to know about these Raging Bolt decks. Game 1 was an aberration, an anomaly. It was not the way the deck is supposed to go. You want to go fast. You want to get that first KO going second with the Raging Bolt deck. And it is, of course, Fan Rotom off the Nest Ball.
Now, it's easy to note that the prize mapping in this game will be incredibly difficult for both players with Briar on the cards. Tom Cedric might have an easier time because there are more single prize Pokemon on Philip's bench in order to be able to eschew that prize card in a way that benefits Tom Cedric. However, we do have that Slitherwing, which might change things up a little bit and give Philip the upper hand in a very roundabout way when Tom Cedric's using it in order to knock out Philip's Terapagos. It's going to get funky up in here.
And the thing to remember about Briar is that when it activates, you take an extra prize if you KO with your Terra Pokemon. Doesn't matter what you KO, plenty of stuff on Philip's board is going to be in range of an attack from that Teal Mask Ogerpon. So Tom could well be attacking with that when Philip gets down to 2 prize cards remaining. As it is, Philip has a decent setup. We've got Hoot Hoot, we've got Pidgey, and we're passing over to Tom, who, hey, has 2 Pokemon and a Nest Ball for a 3rd.
Whoa, that's so many Pokemon, more than we saw the entire first game from Tom. But thank goodness, because now we get to see the full power of Raging Bolt at its best.
And it looks like an entire deck of gold energy, which isn't particularly relevant.
But it's nice.
I see Tom Cedric flicking through his deck, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Kind of wish I had an entire deck of gold energy.
I can't talk. My Raging Bolt deck is exactly the same. I love Raging Bolt, and so I've done exactly the same as Tom Cedric. We're on the same page.
Now, of course, what we see Tom eyeing up here from the nest ball is that Squawkabilly, another card, which is only good on your first turn, lets you discard your hand and then draw another fresh new hand, and that's an extra 6 cards.
Absolutely.
And we see this, it's a staple in Raging Bolt, because the whole point of the game is, the whole point of the deck is, go fast from the beginning, draw as many cards as you can, get energy down on the board, and use those huge attacks nice and early. That's the goal here. One important thing to note about Philip's deck, only plays double turbo. There's no other energy in the deck, which means Unified Beatdown isn't actually maxing out at at 240 HP, 8 bench Pokemon times 30. It's actually maxing out at 220. Raging Bolt has 240. And sure, you can use your Dusclops, etc. to bridge that gap, but that is going to be an awkward interaction as we go through. Philip is not hitting 240 with Terrapagos naturally.
No, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for Philip, for sure. And I think that's the problem with these two decks when they go head-to-head. They're both quite aggressive. And when aggressive decks go head-to-head like this, if someone misses a beat, if you miss the crucial knockout, that can be game-breaking.
No, it absolutely can. If Tom's deck works nicely, you've got to like the idea here. And we do see that Slitherwing coming down nice and early, no mucking about. But there is a Bouffalant. Now, here we go. We do see Prime Catcher used super early on the only Hoot-Toot on the field. If Tom can get a knockout on this Hoot-Toot, that is going to mean that Philip does not have access to Knockdowl for at least another turn, and we saw how useful Knockdown was back in game 1.
Knockdow's crucial to Philip's early game setup. Only managing to get one Hoot-Toot down means that if Tom Cedric certainly gets this knockout, it hopefully might stifle Philip enough that he does begin to slow down. If Tom Cedric continues that ferocious pace of Raging Bolt, then we could see a really early lead. And I think the aggressive play is the correct play from Tom Cedric here, especially when game 1 was mopped up quite so quickly.
Agree entirely. Here comes the the Earthen Vessel. Discard a card from your hand, go and search for 2 energy. So that's going to get energy in the discard. Very useful for Professor Sada's Vitality. Goes and grabs 2 energy out of the deck. Energy is not an issue at this point. Well, the first one. It is Professor Sada's Vitality. If Tom can find one of those, KO on the Hoot-Toot, and the prize isn't the really important thing here. The important thing is, we saw last game, Philip went Knockdowl into Pidgeot, search for what I want, my deck is rolling. Tom Cedric's trying to stop that right now.
And I think it's a valid play. I think it's the most important thing right now is dealing with the most active threat on Philip's board, which is just a sweet Hoot-Toot.
Oh, here comes Pokestop. Big hit off the Pokestop. It is a Pokegear 3.0. Tom's hand is mostly energy right now. I don't think he's got access to Professor Sada's Vitality. We see Tom eyeing up the energy. There is no surprise what he's searching for here.
Here we go.
Is he going to hit Professor Sada's Vitality off these 7 cards?
Come on, please. I want to see it.
Oh, yes. No issues. Actually, it might be 2, actually.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. I love to see a game coming together. We're going to see whether this does stop Terrapagos in its ferocious path, whether it's going to be enough to slow Philip's train down or not. And I love that we get to see this. Poetry in motion, Professor Sada coming through, managing to get the essential energy to KO this Hoot-Toot.
And it's really important to note that, of course, you know, Raging Bolt, Bellowing Thunder, you discard as much basic energy as you like from your Pokemon and do 70 for each one discarded. Well, here, you only discard 1 energy, you take the prize, but it means that your setup remains largely intact. You're not using a whole bunch of energy here. Now, where's the energy? Oh, it's probably going to be discarded from the... Oh, it's going to be interesting to see where the energy gets discarded from, because Raging Bolt can chain attacks, Slitherwing can take out Terrapagos, and your Teal Mask Ogapon can be very nice for taking a prize later on in the game. It is just from the active.
The Slitherwing doesn't actually need the grass energy, though, because it only uses fighting-type energy, which does make it quite awkward to set up. So I imagine it's going to come off the Slitherwing in this instance, but you're so right, Ross. The Slitherwing is still a danger to Philip's setup, board, and game progress in this matchup.
But interestingly, it came off the Raging Bolt.
It did.
It did come off the Raging Bolt. Either way, it doesn't really matter because at this point in the game, you spread energy around. You just need energy on the board. For the first couple of turns, it's going to be the Raging Bolt show, unless that Terrapagos becomes an issue. But one important thing to note, there's already one Bouffalon on the field for Philip.
Yes.
You've got to imagine the second one might be coming down if you are Tom, so you're not planning for that yet. Do we know if the second Bouffalon is prized? I didn't get a good enough look.
No, it's now just been drawn from the Pheasantivity!
Yay!
Flip the script, turning the page.
And there is a Terrapagos down, so you can fill the bench here, if you like, knowing that Area 0 underdepths will open up more in the future. Does Philip have much of a play here,
I was going to say, we need the Area 0 underdepths now, though, in an ideal world, with almost a full bench currently. Pokestop not really getting us closer. Noctowl can't get us closer because we're out of Hoot Hoots.
It did hit resets. Sorry, unfair stamp, though.
That is true.
And Tom did take a prize last turn. So I'm not saying it is the right time in the game, but I'm saying right now, Philip could put Tom down to a 2-card hand with, you know, free energy on the board, but, you know, no draw. Well, I suppose there's one Teal Mask Ogopon, but not a great draw engine. If Philip wants to buy a bit of time to set up, that could be a fun way to go about doing so.
It really could. And I mean, Tom Cedric's hand is quite large as well. So having a large pool of cards in hand, Philip might presume.
Oh, it's gone to the front of the hand, Amy.
Oh, here we go. It might happen.
I think it might actually happen. We might be seeing the unfair stamp. We're going to see a countercatcher first, bringing the Squawkabilly active.
Yes,
So and here we go. I love this play. Make Tom do more things. Trap a Pokemon in the active. So now you've got to get that out the active, and now 2-card hand. I love the unfair stamp here. It's the reason why you play it.
Honestly, forcing Tom to use unnecessary resources on retreating a Squawkabilly is likely going to have to be an attach for turn and retreat. Tom's hand was really strong. Shuffling in, not maybe as effective as an Iono, but still really damning when you're only going down to 2 cards. Is it going to be enough? Probably not.
Unfortunately for Tom Cedric, it might not be enough right now. Philip draws 5 cards off the unfair stamp. It is very literally unfair by name and unfair by nature. And now the question is, does Philip actually have an attack to fire off this turn?
I'm going to be honest with you, Ross. I'm not seeing it. There's a switch. Like, I think an attack can be made.
Yes.
But does it KO? Because we don't have an Area 0 under depths.
It would do 150, 130. So no, right now you'd be 2-hit KO in the Squawkabilly. And you'll be leaving Terrapagos in the active, not under Bouffalon protection.
I'm not personally a big fan of that. I feel like we need our Bouffalon friends on that bench right now to protect our sweet Terrastalize Terrapagos EX. And unfortunately, it's just not there right now. And although Tom definitely will have a hard time, thanks to the 2-card hand, yeah, it's gonna be a tough one for sure.
Here we go. Switch into the Terrapagos and then use Professor Turo's scenario to pick up the Rotom, which is no longer giving any value, and play down the Bouffalon in its stead. So now it is under Bouffalon protection, and that makes a huge difference because now Sliverwing can't come and KO. I did not think Philip would put it active without the Bouffalon curly wall there to protect, and he hasn't. Good work.
We were so right on that one, right on the money, Russ. And over to Tom Cedric's turn as we do place the damage on the Squawkabilly. So maybe that'll come up later. Going straight in for the Pokestop. Oh no!
Not a great Pokestop. 2 energy and a Raging Bolt. Having energy in the discard is useful, but I mean, the hand, it looks like it's 2 Teal Mask Ogopon and a Nestball.
It very much is, and that is not what we want to see. Almost anything but. Unfortunately, there's not much in deck other than maybe a Pheasantipity that's going to be able to give us a hand, so I imagine that's what's going to be taken, and a Flip the Script might be helpful, but not on this turn. It can't be utilized right now as Squawkabilly hasn't been KO'd. I imagine Tom Cedric is just getting ready to future-proof for future turns and is probably going to have to allow the KO on this Squawkabilly.
But it is interesting to note, Philip plays 2 countercatcher and is behind on prizes right now. And there is a Hoot down on the bench. And actually, did he just top deck a countercatcher? Or did I see things? I did it very fast. I might be wrong about that.
I think it might be a Night Stretcher.
Yeah, it was a Night Stretcher. Oh, and there's actually not much going on in Philip's hand at all. Philip has very little.
Just gone for the KO. Just going for it, and I don't blame him.
No, just finishes off that Squawkabilly, takes the 2 prizes, and we're rolling back over to Tom Cedric.
Let's see if Tom Cedric can do much else this turn. I'm not sure a Pokestop could go much worse other than discarding some Professor Sada, which luckily hasn't happened yet. So there's a little bit of hope there. And now Flip the Script can be utilized from Serendipity to draw a further 3 cards. So
Tom just needs an energy.
Honestly, yeah.
And he's got an energy retrieval in hand.
Okay, we're gaming.
So, oh no, 2 energy. The maths works out really awkwardly here. So it's 70 damage per energy discarded. 4 energy is 280, but Terrapagos has an effective 290 because of the extra 60 from Bufalon. So you would actually need a 5th energy to go up to 350, reduced to 290.
Here it goes. We need the Professor Sada here. We've got a Pal Pad. We've got, ooh, a Pokegear and an Earthen Vessel. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the Professor Sada. I'm not sure what order I would sequence this in personally, Ross. Would you go for the Pokegear first and then the Pal Pad later, or would you Pal Pad now to increase the chances of Sada?
If I've got a Sada in the discard pile, I would be tempted to Sada now just because that gives me, it's awkward for the later game, but it does give me a better chance of hitting Professor Sada now. And getting the Professor Sada now guarantees me the KO on Terrapagos, which right now is my main goal.
Yeah.
I want to get that Terrapagos off the board. And like I say, 4 energy will hit 280, but Bufalon will bring it down to 220, and that will not be a KO. There is actually already 4 out, though.
Yes.
Oh, of course, because we got the teal mask attachment.
Yeah, we're dancing.
Oh, we actually got another. No, we don't even need Sada. Yeah, we're good. Just attach the Raging Bolt. Do whatever else you want. I'm cool. Oh, hits Professor Sada from the Pokestop is not ideal, but you still do have the Pal Pad here, so you can get this 2 Sada back in, then use your Pokegear. And actually, this has worked out even better, because now you've still got the Professor Sada are all now in the deck, but you've lost 2 extra cards from the Pokestop. So you have actually increased your chances of hitting Professor Sada off the Pokegear. Not that you necessarily need to this turn, but more energy is always better.
Honestly, and this is why I love the power of Raging Bolt. Again, because it utilizes grass types. But more importantly, dancing grass types, as our Teal Mask Ogerpon friends made that 1 Earthen Vessel into the knockout potential we needed without the use of a Professor Sada. But that doesn't mean we can't continue to build the board and Professor Sada anyway. So we're going to go ahead and continue this onslaught. I imagine trying to set up either the Slitherwing or another Raging Bolt. I imagine Raging Bolt would be the pick right now because the Slitherwing is kind of being blocked by the big curly wall, but later it still might be able to be utilized.
It's still a decent attacker. It can still take out several things in the deck. Right now, I'm kind of loving Tom Cedric's position. You've got the Raging Bolt, you attach to the active, and you're going to get the KO on the Terrapagos here. And then from there, you're 1 prize up, 3-2, but then there is a Serendipity you could potentially go after. And Philip is going to have a hard time responding. There's no Duskull down, so you're not going to see any Dust Noir or Dusclops shenanigans to try and, hit the numbers. I don't think Philip's getting a return KO next turn. And that means Tom Cedric's going to have like 2 turns of Raging Bolt. Here is Professor Sada's Vitality. And crucially, 2nd Raging Bolt, it's got an energy on now.
And we love to see it. Professor Sada, a little bit fashionably
2 energy
late.
on now, Amy.
Woo, we're rolling. And the prize map looks great for Tom Cedric as well, as we're taking a knockout on this Terrapagos EX, putting them down to 3 prize cards remaining, which puts them in a nice position for attempting to avoid a possible Briar turn. If they go 2 prize cards now, 2 prize cards next turn, maybe on the Serendipity or another Terrapagos if we see one, it means that Philip will not be able to utilize Briar in this game.
No, Tom Cedric would never have a 2 prizes remaining, so Philip's Briar would never be able to be activated. There is a weird kind of play which is off the table now. If Philip was able to have a Dusclops this turn, or a Dust Noir, there would be a way where you could essentially use your own Dust Noir to put Tom down to 2 prizes, to activate the Briar. That is always an option that Dust Noir can do to kind of sort yourself onto the right prize map. but there's no Duskull down. It's all a moot point at this stage, unfortunately. But we do see another Terrapagos come down, Amy, so more beatdown?
We will, hopefully so. Again, I think we're going to need another area. We need the area 0. We just have not found one yet. Now, we do have Noctowl in hand, so we're going to have a hoot of a time in a minute when we manage to, there we go ahead and jump into the deck and grab 2 trainer cards using its fantastic dazzling ability, Jewel Seeker, seeking out 2 trainer cards that we need. And I think it's probably looking like
Rare Candy,
Rare Candy, Countercatcher. I'm not sure. Yeah, and then I suppose we use Pidgeot for the area 0?
We absolutely can. There's an Ultra Ball, 2 Ultra Balls in hand, so that does give access to the Pidgeot if you need it. Oh, there's a Feather Ball in hand as well, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Although we also need an energy, there's so much we need now to manufacture a knockout. And like you said earlier, quite rightly so, even with a full board, because of the effect of the double turbo energy, we're not taking a knockout on Raging Bolt.
No, and that's the biggest issue for me for Philip here. You get a full bench of 8, you do 240, but you had to use double turbo, which minuses 20 from your damage, which brings you down to 220, which leaves you short. And firstly, there is no Duskull down to evolve. Secondly, even if there was, you put Tom down to 2 prizes remaining. But then again, maybe you then use Briar, and it gets so complicated, this matchup, and I love it, but does mean there's quite a lot to track here.
It's honestly a mathematical enigma, and I love that we're having to consider the prizes and what order they're taken in so closely. It makes it like a mini game on top of this game of Pokemon trading card game where you're thinking about what order am I taking these prize cards in, because it is so important now with Briar, and it's going to be this way for a little while, where any deck that can utilize a stellar terrestrialized Pokemon is going to be able to do that Briar turn, and then you've got to kind of tiptoe around her, and it can make it quite difficult.
It can make it pretty awkward. Briar, Duskull, all these other things. But the maths is working against Philip here with the numbers that are being hit. Tom Cedric can just hit those numbers with Raging Bolt as often as you like, with your Bellowing Thunder attack. Philip does have a real limit on the amount of damage that is being done. So it does look like we got an Ultra Ball coming down here from Philip, and a sleeve being changed out there as we do so. But it seems like the sleeve has been changed. We're shuffling up here, and then we're going to go and get... Did we see what Pokemon he got from the Ultra Ball? Has he picked it yet?
I didn't quite see it. I'm not sure, and I'm not... With a knockout here, Philip can get a knockout if they get all of the pieces of the puzzle they need right now. We've got the Area 0 under depths. We still require an energy. We've got the Countercatcher right in hand, and that's going to bring something forward that we can KO with Terrapagos.
Yeah, Pheasantipity is in range. Tailmask Ogapon is in range. You got to think it would be the Pheasantipity here, just because it's the better draw engine.
I don't know. I don't know whether I would choose the Terra Pokemon to take away that Briar turn potential.
Yeah, but there's 2 of them in play, so if you get rid of one, there's still 1 remaining. It does get more energy on the board, which is the argument against it, but either way, Area 0 Underdepths does come down here. And here's an interesting one. We've got ourselves Blood Moon Ursaluna, but again, it hits 240, and it can be used for a double turbo, but again, it's reduced down to 220 because of that double turbo.
Which is great numbers for Pheasantipity or Tailmask Ogapon, but Raging Bolt is still in the active currently. Not for long, I imagine, but it still does pose quite the threat.
I mean, there is an argument here to potentially just ignore Raging Bolt, use your Countercatcher and your boss's orders, and just try and go after bench Pokemon instead. The problem is you're then giving Tom the ability to stream attackers quite easily there, and Tom is already up by a prize. So, in fact, if Philip takes a 2-prize knockout this turn, Tom can win next turn.
Yep.
With, oh no, he couldn't, because he'd need to use Briar, and you can't use that on Raging Bolt, and you're not carrying a 2-prize Pokemon with Tailmask Ogapon. Probably, it would be a lot to ask. It would.
It would be a lot to ask. We don't have any 2-prize Pokemon in range right now. Pheasantipity would definitely be the more obvious target for Ogapon, and definitely can be achieved, but not right now.
We'd need a combination of 6 energy between both Pokemon, and that would be a lot to ask. It would basically be 6 energy on a Teal Mask Ogapon, so not relying on that too much. Now, we do see a Suian Heavy Ball coming down. Means Philip is going to be able to have a look at his discard there. He's got 7 bench Pokemon. Oh, is that Noctowl in play?
Yes.
I think it is. So he's got 8 bench Pokemon there. Got the Noctowl, the Pheasantipity, the Terrapagos, the 2 Bufalot, the Pidgeot, the Regidrago, and the Hoot Hoot.
We're having a good time when we finally got a board like this. It took a while, but it doesn't matter. Area Zero has blessed us with a gigantic board, and it does mean that Tom Cedric can bench more Pokemon if they please as well.
But here's the issue here. Tom Cedric now puts, well, 220 damage. Like we said, it's a little bit short, and there is a fun play that can be made here. Tom Cedric plays 3 stadiums. If you retreat the Raging Bolt and replace a stadium after playing 1 more basic Pokemon, you would have to discard one of your Pokemon in play, and you can discard the Raging Bolt and get rid of all that damage Philip just did. It's one of the fun plays you can make with Area Zero Underdepths to actually save your own Pokemon. There's a Greninja.
Ross.
And we've got Pokestop in hand.
Oh, here it goes. You're joking me.
This actually could be a play right now.
Now, it's a rough retreat cost, though.
Yes, it is a retreat cost of 3 if you don't have... I'm not saying you will do it. You might be far enough in the prize race that you don't mind. You know, you can go down to 1 prize remaining here and just let Philip have the KO. I'm just saying it's an option. Now, the maths here. Blood Moon Ursaluna is a basic colorless Pokemon.
Yes.
So it's, again, 5 energy. Yeah, because 4 energy, you're doing 220. That's not enough. So you do need to go 5 energy here, up to 290, and that would be enough to KO the Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Oh, there's potential there. There is a lot of potential there, because the Blood Moon Ursaluna has the double turbo energy on it. So then, you know, we might be able to get there with an Ogre-Bomb.
Well, I was talking about the energy for the Raging Bolt there.
Oh,
the Teal Mask Ogre-Bomb.
No, would need a lot more, actually, yeah. No, you're quite right.
Can we just say no for the Teal Mask Ogre-Bomb?
Oh, come on.
It's not working, Amy.
Dang
so it's gone effective 320, so that is 10 energy. So it would need 8 energy on the Teal Mask Ogre-Bomb plus the prior.
No. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Well, just say no, right?
Okay.
Not working. If the KO's coming down, but honestly, if I'm Tom Cedric, just get the KO of Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
Yes, you could take the 2 prizes off the board. It's not that important.
No.
Take the KO, give up the Raging Bolt, take a final prize next turn and win the game.
Absolutely.
And you never go down to 1 prize remaining, so you never turn on Briar.
Love it. Love to see it. Still a really great prize map. Makes it nice and simple for Tom Cedric. No dancing around Briar.
Yeah.
She doesn't like dancing.
No, not a fan, not a fan. Here comes the Earthen Vessel, discarding a Nest Ball here, going and searching out a couple of energy. We have got enough energy on the board right now. There's 5 energy on the board, that is 350, reduced down to 290 because of Bufalot's Curly Wall, but there's 260 on the Blood Moon Ursaluna, so the KO is on board. The question now is, how well can Tom Cedric set up for the following turn?
I think rather well. Tom Cedric's deck is rather thin at this point, so they know what's in the deck, and it's just about how many of those cards they'd like in hand right now. Is it worth leaving an ironable amount of good cards in the deck, knowing roughly what might be in there? Or are they going to say goodbye to the Area Zero, knowing that it's going to reduce Philip's damage output?
I like this. Force Philip to have to get more bench Pokemon as well as a new Area Zero Underdepths. One thing you're probably going to see from Tom here is discarding the energy on the active Raging Bolt, saying to Philip, okay, fine, KO my active, but leave all the rest of my energy on the board. I'll have 3 energy on the board. Oh, and by the way, my Sliverwing, in case you haven't noticed, 2 fighting energy. Sliverwing is ready to attack next turn, so that Burning Turbulence can be quite nice. Unlike, oh no, it is going off that, so Burning Turbulence is not going. We're just leaving the energy on the Teal Mask Ogre-Bomb instead.
I don't mind that personally. I think knowing that Slitherwing can't KO the Terrapago, probably quite fair. Would only be able to take out those Bufalot because of the Curly Walls.
Yeah, there's no real great options there for low HP Pokemon, but you've got an energy on your Raging Bolt, so next turn, you probably are just going to Raging Bolt again. Attach an energy. What have we seen?
Oh, I rather like this. We've gone for the Area Zero Underdepths, Ready Drago, and now we're going to be able to get things potentially back from the discard pile to help rebuild the board, and that's exactly what this card is in the deck for, is the V-Star ability there. Never attacking with Regidrago. We're just making sure that we're able to get resources back fast enough to make a retaliation, which is exactly what we're going to be seeing here.
Yeah, you don't play the energy to attack with Regidrago. You don't play any dragon Pokemon other than Regidrago. You're not using it for an attack here, but you're using it. And it's one of these things, when we first saw V-Star powers, I really thought we were going to see a lot of these Pokemon like this that have these draw or recover V-Star powers being teched into decks just for the sake of it. We didn't see too much of it as we've been going through since Brilliant Stars, but this is what I always imagined. I don't have a V-Star power I want to use. I don't know, one line of Regidrago, and here comes an I-N-O. Tom Cedric goes down to one card in hand. Now, if it's an energy, a fighting energy specifically, that will mean an attack with Raging Bolt next turn is on the board.
Now, quite cleverly, Tom Cedric left 3 cards exactly in their deck. If they were able to know what those cards were, then they could have quite cleverly made this turn in their favor, knowing that Pheasantipity will draw the rest of those.
Yeah, Pheasantipity getting an extra 3 cards. It's really annoying when you either your opponent to 1 and they're just kind of like Pheasantipity or Greninja or Mew or Bibarel or a million other. We got so many draw engines nowadays. It does, if you can get one of those established on the board, it really does weaken the power of I-N-O.
Looks like we're considering the switch. Yep, and Countercatcher as the 2 cards from Regidrago's V-Star ability.
Oh, no guesses for what you're getting with that Countercatcher. We've just been talking about it. Get rid of that Pheasantipity. Because, yeah, sure, Teal Mask Ogerpon's a draw engine, but only if you have Grass Energy in hand. So you take out that Pheasantipity, really hurt Tom.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it mitigates that possibility of Tom having known what the last 3 cards in deck were, choosing not to Pokestop or utilize any other draw engines, and they may not get the card they need. So I think taking out that Pheasantipity at this stage is perfect timing.
Yeah, that was one of the least surprising Countercatchers I have ever seen. We do actually and actually, now what just so happened there was Blood Moon Ursaluna attacking for 0 energy.
Perfect.
Which means it does hit 240 if you don't have the -20. So this is where Philip gets back into the game. We've talked a lot about that double turbo, stopping Blood Moon Ursaluna hitting the key numbers, and that's true. But it's a 5 colorless energy attack, reduced by 1 for each prize card your opponent's taken. Tom Cedric's taken 5 prizes. You are now one-hit KOing anything on Tom's board. Tom has to win next turn.
Oh my goodness, here it is. That's it. The energy retrieval takes it. And they're able to KO the Blood Moon Ursaluna, taking that final prize card. Tom rampages across Philip's gigantic board and takes the win, bringing it back to 1-1.
Yeah, went and got that fighting energy to attack to that Raging Bolt so that you could use the attack, and that meant you did have enough energy to go and get the KO. You had the right number of energy to go and get that KO, and that made the difference. So now we sit at 1 game each, and if I'm Tom Cedric, I'm not terribly happy, because that is how I imagine the game to go.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. Blood Moon Ursaluna can one-hit KO when I've taken 5 prizes, but actually, Philip's deck struggles to one-hit KO my main attacker.
Yes.
And I should be faster because I can attack. Turn 1 going second, and my opponent can't. I should be in a good position this game, and the only reason I lost game 1 is because I had a completely uncooperative hand that didn't let me play the game. Game 2, I had a hand that let me play, and I won.
Pheasantipity is usually really helpful in decks, but in game 1, it completely betrayed poor old Tom Cedric there, and it was a bit of a non-starter. We didn't even get off the mark. And so I feel like Tom Cedric was thinking, oh, great, Terapagos, fantastic matchup for me. Theoretically, on paper, really great into Terapagos for all the reasons you highlighted, Rush, is so right. But then having that really disappointing start made it so difficult. And now we're going to have a real battle for the ages as game 3 is going to begin, with both players knowing what's going on with each deck and seeing whether that struggle comes to light. Ooh, dear.
2 Knockdown prized for Philip, and that means I run to the deck list and have a little bit of a look-see. And, oh, it is a free line for Phillips. There is one knocked owl available. That is absolutely huge. Now, we have 10 minutes remaining, but the clock is a bit of a lie in matchups such as this. Because if I'm Tom, I'm thinking free 2-prize KOs. That's my route to victory.
Yes.
I'm playing 2 Pokemon Catcher, I'm playing a Prime Catcher, I'm playing a Boss's Orders, so I have access to Gusting, and 3 of these cards can be grabbed off a Pokestop. My goal here is not to win in 10 minutes. I don't need to win in 10 minutes. I need to have taken 2 prizes in 10 minutes.
Perfect.
And if I've taken 2 prizes in 10 minutes, I will have 2 extra turns. I'm either turn 0 and 2 or 1 and 3, at which point I can use those 2 turns to take 2 prize knockouts and win. Philip might try and limit the number of 2-prize Pokemon if that's where we're going, but that's where we are for Tom. For Philip, it's a similar kind of thing, but it's going to be a bit more awkward.
I'd be feeling relatively confident to say that we're definitely going to have a conclusion to this best of 3 because of exactly that. We've got big Pokemon, big hitters, lots of aggression, and those 2 extra turns each in time just gives us that wiggle room that the focus can be making sure that we're playing seamlessly right now. No rushing, just getting what needs to be done. Now, the Hoot Hoot and Fan Rotom coming out to begin with, absolutely fantastic play from Philip, but I worry for the lone Hoot Hoot. I imagine we'll definitely be getting some more so that we don't have a repeat of last game.
That would be a little bit sad. Now, from Philip's point of view in this game, if things get a bit trickier, Philip is not playing that much Gusting. We've got Counter Catcher, which only works to be behind on prizes, and we've got ourselves Boss's Orders, 1 copy only. And Philip can't really KO Raging Bolt in the early game.
No.
Which means that Philip basically has to go after the bench in order to get an early win, as in a win in the short amount of time we got remaining, but does not necessarily have the Gusting options to do so. Tom can KO the active a lot more easily, and if Philip puts a single prize, has better Gusting options. So I am liking Tom in a short game 3 here.
I do, I know, honestly. And also even just starting the Radiant Greninja.
Depending on the start.
Depending on the start, of course. So I'm feeling quite confident that we're going to see a really fantastic battle here and a true back and forth. We've got some fantastic looking setup. I think from both sides, honestly, I'm feeling good about both. We've got Ultra Balls in hand for Philip. We're moving on to Tom Cedric right now, and we've got the Greninja, plenty of energy, and I think we're going to be rocking and rolling with this.
It's not a huge, it looks like it's going to be an early Iono here from Tom Cedric. He doesn't seem to have any other basic Pokemon or Pokemon Search, so it might be a case here of play the Earthen Vessel, get an energy in a discard, very important for Professor Sada. Might have to Iono early, which of course you don't really want to do, because if you Iono early, that means you don't have Professor Sada, and honestly, you only play 1 Iono in the deck, but that hand seems like it needs a full refresh.
It really does, and it's such a shame almost because there's a Terapagos EX prime for KOing in the active spot right now, which Raging Bolt absolutely can achieve in this situation, in this circumstance, but only with a Professor Sada's Vitality.
Who is Raging Bolt? Is it Sliverwing territory? Because the Bouffalon protection is not in place. They're out to lunch. They're on a break. They're not doing what they need to be doing, and they have left Terapagos exposed.
Oh, no!
But I think Philip might get away with this, unless I've missed something in Tom's hand. And bearing in mind, we're getting little glimpses of the hand, Amy.
We do. I think so. I think you're right. But it's all down to this concealed cards. It's all down to the concealed cards. Now, taking some energy out, great idea. I love the 2 grass-type energy, just in case we get a Teal Mask Ogopon, because we can continue drawing cards. So if Greninja does bless us with no Sada, but, and the but being crucial enough, that we do get a Teal Mask Ogopon, then we might be gaming. But unfortunately, if we don't have an ancient Pokemon, we're still a bit in a bit of a rut.
Yeah, this is the best you can do right now. Use Greninja, hope to draw something off your concealed cards.
Here we go.
But you've got the Iono as your I've got nothing else going on. Ooh, it's a Boss's Orders.
Is it an Ultra Ball? No, it's a Pokemon Catcher, I think. So we are just going to have to go for the Iono and pray.
Yeah, that was the issue there. Didn't get anything off of their concealed cards. So you play an Iono, you cross your fingers. You do get a new hand of 6 at least.
Yeah. And to the merit of Tom Cedric, not that he were to know, but Philip did have a pretty good hand, so maybe this will slow Philip down too. We don't know.
Oh, we got 2 rare candy and double turbo. That's not a great hand from Philip, I'm seeing there. Counter catcher, nest ball.
Ooh, if the INO sticks and the top deck isn't good, we might get away with it, Tom Cedric. We might get away with it, friend. But we've gone for the Teal Mask Ogapon, dancing away there. Got another Earthen Vessel being played this turn. Oh!
And there's a Squawkabilly in hand.
Of course.
So that's why we're getting rid of the Professor Sada here. You're going to discard it using Squawkabilly, Squawk and Seize anyway, so you can discard it off the Earthen Vessel. If you weren't going to Squawk and Seize, no, you would never discard Professor Sada's Vitality with an Earthen Vessel. That would be ridiculous.
No, we can't use it this turn. INO's already been in action, so Professor Sada's going to have to wait. She cannot come through the door yet. There is no space. INO has taken that step. So going in with the Earthen Vessel, going ahead and grabbing some more energy to discard and potentially attach one as well this turn. Might see the attach for turn before the Squawk and Seize.
I would imagine so. There's already 2 energy in the discard,
Yeah.
so like, you need some energy in the discard for Professor Sada's Vitality, but you don't, you need to be a little bit careful there.
Yeah.
So we are going to, now, we're going to see the Squawk and Seize. Here's the attachment on the Raging Bolt. Here's the Squawk and Seize.
Oh.
After a switch cart, getting the Raging Bolt into the active. Well, here's the thing. We're going to be able to use...
Oh, I like this hand.
Burst Roar.
Oh.
We don't see much Burst Roar. Burst Roar is basically an admission that your first turn did not go as well as you wanted. But it depends on what you draw from your Squawk and Seize. If you've got too many cards you can't discard, you actually have to turn down the Burst Roar. But you have to use Switch Cart before you Squawk and Seize. So you're leaving the option open. Now, did we use Burst Roar there or not?
I don't think we have, because I think that's a pretty nice hand. We've got the Professor Sada, we've got an energy, it's grass. I think we're just passing there.
Yeah, and there's 5 cards in hand, so that was very much Tom Cedric leaving the door open for Burst Draw, but then going, my hand's too good, I'm not discarding it.
I'm not having that. And I think it also gives Philip a bit of a nod in that Tom Cedric does have a good hand. Not going for the Burst Draw does kind of signify, my opponent's got this. That's not great.
Unified Beatdown does 130. Philip is not able to get an Area 0 under depths. Here comes Professor Sada's Vitality, and this is what Tom's looking for. We got 3 minutes remaining, but it looks like we are going to get the KO on the Terrapagos. Doesn't even look like it. This one's easy. 4 energy, no Bouffalon protection. There's a 5th energy on the board, and this is exactly what Tom's looking for. 6th energy on the board with Teal Mask Ogapon. 7th energy not coming out. I was just on a roll.
Tom Cedric going for all the grass energy, +1 fighting type. No, we're gonna reconsider. It's very important in Raging Bolt to remember that Pokemon are gonna get KO'd. So is it worth just discarding the energy? Knowing that we have a Professor Sada in hand, it seems that that's been the choice.
Yeah, the thinking here is, well, even if there's no Area 0 under depths, I'm going to get KO'd by a Terrapagos next turn.
Oh, I was wrong. I missed all the Sada, though. So maybe brave, but equally probably presuming a KO is coming regardless.
Yeah, if I'm Tom Cedric here, I'm thinking Terrapagos Double Turbo is literally all Philip needs to get a KO here.
Yeah.
Let's not muck about too much. The chance of me losing my energy is high enough that I'm just going to get rid of it myself, because the worst case scenario, and here comes the Terrapagos. The worst case scenario here is that you keep the energy on the activists, get KO'd, you give up 2 prizes and a bunch of energy.
It's not far-fetched, that's the thing. It's Pidgeot, so we're able to quick search for that energy if we need it, but not seeming like we're going to need it.
No, I like this. You play the counter catcher onto the Squawkabilly because you can get the Squawkabilly now. There is a possibility that in a turn or two, Area 0 under depths has gone away. You can't get Squawkabilly, but you can still get that Raging Bolt. So
ooh, this is nice.
You're getting the more awkward KO now because you can, leaving the easier KO for later, an turn or two, if you're unable to do it.
I think this could go either way at this point. Before time gets called, both players are going to have taken a 2-prize knockout, meaning that theoretically either player can win. This could come down to the wire. This could be so very close.
To be fair, and we need to mention this, it's not just that you can go after that Raging Bolt later. Dust Noir. We've not seen it at all this game.
No, we haven't.
But it is in Dust Noir range. So actually, Philip can win next turn. Yeah, Philip can win next turn. That is possible. Philip is setting up a Dust Noir KO on the Raging Bolt. So I like this a lot.
I like it too. We're going to see some good plays, because up until this point, it's kind of been like Dusk, no, we haven't seen any of it. But now we're going to see some Duskull through Dusk Noir action.
Yeah, so we've got Raging Bolt in the active. And here's the thing, from Tom's side of the board, the rest of the game's pretty straightforward. What? Oh. Now, time has just been called. Tom is turn 0. Now, you know that play I said about earlier where you fill up your bench and replace a stadium to get rid of a damaged Pokemon?
Oh, yeah.
And how you didn't really need to? Yeah, now he needs to. Now it would be a phenomenal play to get rid of the potential for the Dust Noir KO on the bench Raging Bolt.
But do we have it?
I don't think he's got the hand to do it. I'm just saying it would be great if he could.
It would be so good. It would be great. And it would be the first one that we're seeing today, although I imagine there have been plenty of fantastic plays utilizing those area 0 of your opponents to do such magical plays as to kind of take risky Pokemon off the board entirely. Going for another dance there with Teal Mask Ogerpon, but still not seeing a stadium to replace.
We need 2 basic Pokemon and a stadium.
It's a lot to ask for, isn't it?
Well, there is an energy retrieval, so could you maybe Ultra Ball for a Teal Mask Ogerpon, then energy retrieval for a Grass Energy, try and use that to go and draw a card, which could be the stadium. Again, we're around the houses here, but that's basically where we are.
I think great minds think alike. I think that might be what's happening. And then I've been proved completely wrong almost immediately by the discarding of the 2 Grass Energy. I think we might be considering Pheasantipity instead.
There was no KO last turn, unfortunately, so Pheasantipity won't be drawn. No, there was a KO. There was a KO.
Yeah,
I'm still thinking about the damage Raging Bolt.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're getting 3 extra cards here with the Pheasantipity, and that means that Tom has got more options. We need a basic Pokemon, and we need a stadium of any description.
We have 1 basic in hand.
Yeah, that Sliverwing will do very nicely.
Here we go.
Do we see a stadium? No, it's a Pokemon catcher, an Earthen Vessel, and a Pokegear 3.0. There's no stadium here.
No stadium.
Oh, that would have been such a good play from Tom, because Philip needs Rare Candy, Dust Noir, Double Turbo Energy, and Gusting. But if Philip gets that next turn, he will win the game before Tom has a chance to come back.
And we've got 2 Hoot, so that's a potential of 2 Noctowl. There's so much potential to get all sorts here. Well, this KO might not be enough.
Is there any way we could have a look at the prizes of Philip? Because Philip had 2, was that last game or this game?
No, that's this game. 2 Noctowl prized, but...
Are they taken out? Are there any Noctowl left in the prizes?
I believe there will be.
Oh, there's 1 there, we're good.
There's 1 in hand, yeah. And then, but by taking a knockout with a Dusk Noir, we might find that Philip then draws into the other Noctowl, and you might be able to kind of combo off the prize cards here if the right ones haven't been taken.
So there's 1 prize, which means 1 left in the deck, which you could draw, or 1 in the discard, which you could get off the Dust Noir KO. So it's Rare Candy, Dust Noir, Double Turbo, Gusting.
Here we go. Oh, we've got an Ursaluna from the Nest Ball there. Going, Ultra Ball, here we are. There's the Dusk Noir. Rare Candy, Dusk Noir, seeing it happen, going for that huge knockout on the previously damaged Raging Bolt, taking 2 prize cards, retreat into...
And there we go. We don't even need anything else because, of course, Blood Moon Ursaluna, when your opponent's got 1 prize card remaining, can hit 240 for 0 energy. It's not reduced by 20, so you don't need the Gusting, you don't need the energy. That Blood Moon Ursaluna came through, and like we said earlier, it's not that great until your opponent's got 1 prize card remaining, and then it becomes awesome by getting rid of the Dust Noir to put your opponent down to 1 prize card remaining. That let Blood Moon Ursaluna do its thing.
And that's really the power in the Duskull line right now, is being able to manipulate your opponent's prize cards, being able to go, actually, you know what, you are on 1 prize card, and then you're right, it takes that Pokemon Pokemon card that you think, oh, crumbs, oh, the energy is going to reduce its damage. You're like, actually, wait, no, I can sort this out myself. You take that prize card, please, so that I can go ahead now and win.
Yeah, and that happens so fast. We're talking about all the options. The Blood Moon Ursaluna hit the board, and then 2 seconds later, it's taking that last KO. And I'll tell you what, there were 2 games there where Philip made great use of that Blood Moon Ursaluna because it can attack for 0. We're used to things like Radiant Charizard that always needs an energy, or if you're playing your Stellar Crown pre-release, you might be thinking of the Crabominable, which always needs an energy.
Yep.
But this Blood Moon Ursaluna, if your opponent takes 5 prizes, 0 energy attack, and again, it's not just a 0 energy, it's not putting double turbo, hitting for 240 rather than 220, and being able to KO the Raging Bolt, so you don't need gusting. That was key at the end of the game.
That was absolutely the most important play of that game, and it really turned it around. And we were predicting that that was going to be close, but I was not expecting it to be quite that close with all of the twists and turns. But the Dusknoir at the end really came through and made it stance.
And we need to point out here, had Tom Cedric found a stadium, he could have gotten rid of that damaged Raging Bolt, and Robin is not taking 4 prizes on that final turn. And we saw Tom Cedric digging and digging and digging. He whiffed the stadium. If he didn't whiff the stadium, he might well end up winning that 3rd game and that whole best of 3. That's the margins we're talking about here. Let's be clear, that last turn from Philip, phenomenal, ridiculously well played. But we do need to mention that whiff of the stadium. So, Amy, replay.
Well, didn't that game go down a storm? We got to see the full power of both of these decks really going for it with that really big start. The KOs were coming through. We got down to 1 prize card and just absolutely went with it. We saw the power of Raging Bolt come through. We got to see Philip using that Legacy Star, which was incredible and really unexpected from a Terrapagos deck.
Yeah, here we see we're in game 2, and Philip comes up with a big KO with that Blood Moon Ursaluna. That was the first time we saw it come through, but it didn't actually matter because Tom Cedric was able to get the energy that they needed, and we see Philip conceding game 2 as Raging Bolt is about to KO that Blood Moon Ursaluna. But then, Amy, then we go to game 3, and we see that both players had a decent setup. We see Tom Cedric drawing there. Early on in the game, we had to Squawk and Seize. We had to do the turn 1 I&O, neither of which were ideal. But then we started getting the big KOs. We see the lack of KO from this Terrapagos, but this was the damage that led to the Dusknoir KO later in the game.
It was so crucial, and not taking a 1-hit KO in this format is actually beneficial a lot of the time now, which is something we haven't seen for a while. Being able to leave meticulously placed damage to utilize later is finally relevant again. We're not needing to take out big 1-hit KOs in order to make a comeback and win, as Philip beautifully displays in this masterclass of just how powerful that Dusclops line can be.
Yeah, and we see here we're getting towards the end of game 3. Pidgeot comes into the active with that free retreat, and this is where Philip puts on the masterclass. Tom has 2 prize cards remaining. Blood Moon Ursaluna goes down. So we're going to see the Dusknoir getting evolved up into in just a second. So there's the rare candy to the Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball for the Dusknoir. Dusknoir comes into play. Dusknoir gets KO to take out the Raging Bolt, which puts Tom to 1 prize card remaining, which means Blood Moon Ursaluna can attack for free for 240, KO the Raging Bolt, and that was the end of game 3 that gave Philip the victory 2 games to 1.
Absolutely beautiful, and really displays how versatile Terrapagos can be. Ross, you were saying that you weren't rating Terrapagos this weekend. What do you think now?
I think we're at the first regional of the season, and here's the thing, right? I've said